Strategic Business Leader mirrors the workplace and requires you to demonstrate a blend of technical, ethical, and professional skills. It tests your ability to function as an accountant in a simulated workplace and asks you to respond to requests from people in various roles. It won't only be the technical quality of your answer that matters, but how professional your response is. The syllabus brings together core areas from governance, risk and strategy, links to other leadership areas such as organisational control, innovation and change management, and uses new technologies and data analytics. We know that students who have completed the Ethics and Professional Skills module are significantly more likely to pass SBL, so make sure you plan the module into your studies. ACCA recommends studying with an approved learning partner and using study materials from our approved content providers. However you study, ACCA will support your learning journey with a range of free resources. The Examiner's Approach article is a good place to start. There are also technical and exam technique articles to further refine your knowledge and skills. To practice and perfect your exam technique, the CBE Practice platform replicates the real exam experience and allows you to practice up-to-date exam standard questions before marking and reviewing your answers using detailed marking guides and model answers. In this exam, each task will specify an answer format. You could be asked to prepare a briefing paper, write a report for the board, or draft a letter. It's important to note that a task may have more than one requirement, for example, evaluate and recommend. Using the resources available from ACCA and your learning partner is the proven route to exam success. So good luck with your studies and exam from everyone at ACCA.
Welcome to this short video, which will give you an overview of the SBL exam. SBL, or Strategic Business Leader, is designed to allow students to demonstrate organisational leadership and senior consultancy or advisory capabilities, as well as relevant professional skills through the context of an integrated case study. The whole of the SBL exam will be based on one fictitious organisation. SBL is the only exam to release advanced information in the form of a pre-scene. In common with other strategic professional exams, SBL is taken as a computer-based assessment of 3 hours and 15 minutes. The SBL exam will consist of 3 tasks and require demonstration of 5 professional skills. The pre-scene is a 10 to 15 page document which provides SBL candidates with information about the organisation and industry on which the exam will be based. This background information will be used to provide context for the further information given in the exam to help in answering requirements. The pre-scene will be a simplified version of a real industry and will not represent any real organisation. Each exam has its own unique pre-scene, which is only released to registered SBL candidates 2 weeks before the exam date. This will give candidates time to thoroughly review and understand the industry and the case study organisation. This will help candidates to produce answers of the required depth and breadth in their exam. During the exam, Candidates will be provided with 3 requirements or tasks: a clean copy of the pre-seen, plus further new information in the form of exhibits. The exhibits contain the information which candidates need to focus on to be able to answer the tasks. Candidates may refer to the pre-seen, but this should not be the main source of information for answering the tasks. Each task is answered in a separate response option, but as this is an integrated case study, they share the same exhibits and pre-seen information. These tasks may be broken down into several subtasks. The mark allocation per task and subtask may vary from exam to exam and from task to task. Candidates must therefore take careful note of the marks and use these to manage their time. Each of the 5 professional skills will be assigned to a task or subtask and be worth 4 marks. It will be clear in the task which skill is being tested. However, remember to apply general professional writing and communication skills throughout the exam. We hope that this overview has been useful and wish you good luck with your studies.
When you study with ACCA, you can take your career in any direction. And you can be reassured that across the ACCA qualification, we cover the full skills and competencies that today's employers demand. To help make your skill set even more attractive to employers and increase your employability, we are making some changes to the options exams. From September 2022, we'll start to introduce professional skills marks into the strategic professional options exams. The options exams will have 20 marks awarded for professional skills, which are demonstrated throughout the exam, allowing you to develop the critical professional skills required of a professional accountant. The exams integrate professional skills throughout, and you will be required to apply your technical knowledge in the context of a business scenario and to demonstrate the professional skills specified in the syllabus. Let's look at these skills. Communication means expressing yourself clearly and convincingly through the appropriate format, while being sensitive to the needs of the intended audience. This means responding in a professional manner and adhering to any specific instructions made. Commercial acumen means having awareness of the wider business environment and external factors affecting the business. Using commercially sound judgment and insight to resolve issues, exploit opportunities, and offer valid advice and realistic recommendations. Skepticism means having to explore, question, and challenge information and views presented, identifying if all information is available or whether there may be an underlying bias, using skepticism to fully understand business issues and establish facts objectively based on ethical and professional values. In the Advanced Audit and Assurance exam, skepticism is expanded to include judgment. Analysis and evaluation involves thoroughly investigating and researching information from a variety of sources, and then logically progressing it with a view to arriving at an appropriate conclusion or recommendation. Analysis should form part of a comprehensive and careful assessment of situation, proposal, or argument, done in a balanced way and using professional skepticism and judgment to evaluate and predict the future outcome or consequence. It's worth noting that in the SBL exam, analysis and evaluation are treated as separate professional skills, whereas in the options exams, the 2 skills are combined. The examining team also wants you to demonstrate general professionalism, including making the most important points, not repeating points, and addressing the requirements as written. In the SBL exam, each technical task will have a specific professional skill associated with it, whereas in the options exams, the professional skills being examined will be allocated to the question overall. It is important to remember that the professional skills are not a separate activity to the technical requirements. You need to take a professional approach, thinking about the skills you're being asked to demonstrate when responding to the technical elements of the exam. By doing so, you will score both technical and professional skills marks. Question practice with feedback on your answers is vital. Try to incorporate this from the start of your studies so that you can build up confidence in your ability to apply the skills. An excellent way to start developing your professional skills is to work through the Ethics and Professional Skills module. Make sure you do this before attempting any of the strategic professional exams. You can now find full information on how professional skills marks are incorporated into each options exam on the ACCA website.
Analysis is one of the key professional skills on which you'll be tested in your exam. Analysis means logically investigating and processing information to respond to a question or request, or to meet a stated objective. To demonstrate effective analysis, you need to be able to compare information, explain why a certain piece of information is important, and explain the implications of the information. For example, in the exam, you may be asked to prepare a report to the board that reviews the performance of a company over the past 3 years. Let's say you are provided with management accounts and minutes of board meetings for the past 3 years, annual customer survey results, and a recently published industry research report. How would you use the information provided to review company performance whilst demonstrating sound analysis skills? Let's follow a logical approach. Firstly, the management accounts are provided for a reason. Use the numbers to calculate ratios and other financial performance measures. What do the results show? Use the board minutes to help you discuss the financial performance data, providing comments and possible explanations. Next, what do the results of the customer survey suggest? Are customers happy or are they dissatisfied? Is there a risk that the company will lose customers in the future? And finally, what about the external performance of the business? Use the recently published industry report to compare the company performance against industry-wide data. What does it show? Is the company performing well in comparison to its competitors? It's vital to use all the information available to you to ensure you are able to give a well-rounded assessment of company performance in your report to the board. Ensure you allocate sufficient time to review each exhibit. In the exam, when you are required to demonstrate analysis, ask yourself 3 questions. What information is available? Use numerical information to perform calculations to support your analysis. How does the information compare from one year to another or to competing business or industry average? What does the information mean? Consider the impact it will have on the business. Effective evaluation is a required skill of a professional accountant, both in the real world and in your exam. It can be demonstrated across 3 areas: by assessing and using professional judgments when considering issues or problems facing the organisation in the exam scenario, estimating trends and making reasoned forecasts of the implications of potential decisions available to the organisation, appraising facts, opinions and findings objectively with a view to balancing the costs, risks, benefits and opportunities before recommending solutions or decisions. In your exam, you may be asked by the Board of Directors to write a business case, which evaluates a potential significant investment in a new IT system. You should start by assessing the current situation and the potential need for the new system. For example, is there evidence of problems with the current system which may be reducing the quality of service provided to customers? This should lead on to discussing the resulting benefits of a new system. For instance, a better experience for customers, leading on to improved financial performance. Wherever possible, you should estimate or forecast the actual impact on areas such as revenue and profitability. In order to present a balanced argument, you need to consider any downsides to the investment. This may include risks associated with financing the venture, so you could appraise the accessibility and cost of finance relative to the current status of the organisation. Finally, your business case would make a recommendation to the board on whether to proceed with the investment in the new IT system or not. Remember, you will score marks for a sensible recommendation as long as it's supported by your arguments. So, the best ways to give your overall answer a strong structure and to demonstrate the skill of evaluation are to create a balanced argument. Use headings such as advantages and disadvantages, or benefits and risks to make sure you cover both sides of the issue. Create a broad argument. Just using information or ideas from one area isn't enough. Consider financial and non-financial issues across different relevant requirements. Conclude or recommend. As we saw in our example, you are likely to be asked to evaluate a proposal, and the audience want to know whether they should go ahead. Tell them your opinion, and back this up by summarising the key advantage or disadvantage, or benefit or risk.
As in the real world, during your exam, you'll face a substantial amount of information in various forms. Can you be sure that the information is correct, truthful, or complete? You can't. That's why you need to be skeptical. Skepticism is crucial in the world of accountancy and is one of the key professional skills on which you'll be tested. To demonstrate effective skepticism, you should show a combination of probing, questioning, and challenging. In your exam, you may be required to review and comment on information given by a finance director at a monthly board meeting. Don't simply accept everything that the finance director has said. Is there evidence that supports or conflicts with the views of the finance director? If the board meeting minutes claim that the audited annual accounts show an increased profit of 52% to 120 million due to a cost control initiative led by the finance director, what would be the most appropriate of these three elements to challenge? Well, the audited accounts have been reviewed by an independent third party, which provides sound evidence of the validity of the numbers. Therefore, it would be the reason given by the finance director for the profit growth that would be the most appropriate element to challenge within your answer. Moving on, how would you then question the finance director's reasoning? Would you accuse the finance director of bias and demand evidence to back up their claim? Clearly not. However, it would be appropriate to request further details from the finance director that support his explanation within your answer. This would be an acceptable example of professional behaviour. Professional accountants should be able to challenge views given at all levels within the business. Remember, we don't assume that everything is wrong or that everyone is lying to us, but also don't take everything at face value. In your exam, when you're required to demonstrate skepticism, ask yourself 3 questions. Is there sufficient evidence to support the claims being made? If not, what further evidence is needed to verify or challenge those claims? When you challenge, have you done so in a professional and courteous way?
A professional accountant must possess a range of professional skills, and you must demonstrate these in your exam. These skills include commercial acumen, which basically means you should make commercially sound decisions when resolving issues and exploiting opportunities. As part of this, you must show awareness of the external environment in which an organization operates. To show commercial acumen, you should demonstrate a combination of business awareness, effective judgment, and insight. In your exam, you may be asked to make recommendations to an audit committee of safeguards that could be implemented to reduce fraud levels at a rail company. To demonstrate commercial acumen, you must give a variety of recommendations that deal with the issue in different ways. Then, focusing on the individual recommendations themselves, consider these 2 alternatives to manage the risk that customers travel without paying for their journey. Firstly, the rail company could install ticket barriers at all major stations, or alternatively, the company could recruit a large number of ticket inspectors that will check every passenger's ticket. Which recommendation shows the best commercial acumen? Well, the ongoing staffing cost and potential delays and disruption caused by manual checking of tickets mean that this is probably not a practical long-term solution. Installation of ticket barriers is the better option. Finally, for this example, in order to maximize your professional skills mark, ensure you justify your recommendations demonstrating insight where possible. So, when recommending installation of ticket barriers, you could suggest that this would be subject to a cost-benefit analysis, which would include the time saving of automated barriers compared to manual ticket checking. Demonstrating commercial acumen is something that you will do as you answer the detailed requirements and will not be a separate section in your answer. To maximize your commercial acumen marks, consider the following 3 points. Focus on a variety of matters which will be affected by the issue in the question. Focus on relevant areas only, otherwise it will waste time and make you appear unprofessional. Finally, make sure any recommendations are feasible and always try to consider people as well as numbers. It's people that achieve the numbers.
Okay, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from, and thank you for finding time to join us on this webinar today. My name is Martin, and I work as Education Support Manager here at ACCA, and this session today is meant to provide you with detailed information regarding the changes that are being introduced to the SBL exam from September 2023. And to take us through the session today, I'm very pleased to be joined by Joanne, Jesse, and Michelle, who are part of the SBL examining team. Before I hand over to Joanne, I'd just like to cover a few housekeeping items. Now you'll find a couple of buttons at the bottom of your screen, which will be useful to you in the course of this webinar. There's a help icon on the left, which provides resources and information to help you resolve any technical issues that you might experience. You'll also see some icons for the slides and the media player, so ensure that you've selected both of these. There is an attendee chat function that will enable you to engage with fellow webinar attendees, and that icon is on the right-hand side. We also have a list of available resources, the icon that looks like a file symbol. So if you click on that, you'll be able to access the resources relevant to today's webinar, including the direct links. Please feel free to rearrange your screen to suit you and resize the windows if you need to. And in case you can't hear or see the visuals at any point, please do refresh your browser. If you've registered for this webinar, it means you'll be sent an email tomorrow with details of how you can listen to it again. So don't worry if you miss anything or if you have any technical issues, as you'll be able to access the recording. I'm going to hand over to Joanne in a moment. And if you'd like to ask a question, then please click on the Q&A button. We're going to highlight that on your screen shortly, and submit your questions, and we'll have this responded to. And at the end of the session, towards the end, we'll have a Q&A session where we'll respond to some of the questions live. And please note that we may not guarantee responding to all the questions due to the volumes involved, but we hope that the questions we share will be helpful to everyone. So welcome once again. And now, Joanne, over to you.
Thank you so much, Martin, and welcome everybody. Jesse, Michelle and I work in the SBL examining team, and we're going to be talking you through some of the changes that are coming in September 2023. So we've got a few slides, not a huge number, but we've got the slides that pick up on the major changes. We're going to go through those, and then, as Martin said, we'll have a Q&A session. Please put in your questions, and we'll get to as many as we can after we've been through the slides. So starting off, and in September, we're going to be introducing 3 key changes to SBL, and this will start from September and continue. So it's from the September 2023 session onwards. The first change we're making is we are introducing pre-seen information, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the next few slides. The second change we're making is that we are shortening the length of the exam. So previously, SBL was a 4-hour exam. We're reducing it down to 3 hours and 15 minutes, and we'll talk about that. And then the third change that we're making is to do with the format of the exam. Not all of it is changing, but there are some aspects of the format that are changing, and we'll explain those to you. So those are the 3 key changes that we're going to go through over in these slides. And if anything is unclear, please pop a question in the Q&A chat, and we'll get to it at the end of the slides. So if we start with that first big change, which is the pre-seen. So 2 weeks before your September exam, so on the 22nd of August, we will be releasing pre-seen information to you. Now, the pre-seen information is going to be information about the industry and the fictitious organization that your September exam is going to be based on. So it's going to give you a bit of background and a bit of context. Now, this information used to be given in exhibits in the old sort of format, but we're giving you a bit more detail and releasing it 2 weeks now before the September exam. So that'll be on the 22nd of August. It will be released through Exam Planner, and you'll be sent an email explaining how to access it. Now, the pre-seen information, that the reason why we're releasing it is to give you time to analyze, well, and understand the information, become totally familiar with the information before you go into the exam. So to reduce that exam pressure that exists at the moment where there's a lot of new information to work through. There will still be new information in the exam, but you'll be walking into that exam in September with an idea, an understanding of the organization that the questions are going to be based on. And you'll be able to put the new information that will be released in the exam into context straight away. And it helps all students. So it helps students who've got English as a second language, because we know in the current format there are sometimes terms and words that aren't easily understood. But it also helps anybody who isn't very familiar with the industry in which the fictitious organisation is based. So that's the aim of the pre-scene information released 2 weeks beforehand. We will be giving you guidance on what to do with the pre-scene. We'll be talking through do's and don'ts as part of this session, but it is important that you do access it as soon as it's released. So give yourself the 2 weeks, work through it really carefully, and become really familiar with it. So that's the pre-scene information. The next change is the reduction in time. So at the moment it's a 4-hour exam. It will change from September to be 3 hours 15 minutes, which is in line with the other strategic professional exams. The reason why we're reducing the time is because you'll have a lot of pre-scene information. So the amount of new information in the exam will be reduced. So it'll be shorter than it is at the moment, so fewer exhibits. And because you'll be walking into the exam already being comfortable and understand the industry and the organization. So a lot of that time that's currently spent in that 4-hour exam, sort of reflecting and trying to assimilate all the different information, we're now taking out of the exam session. You'll do that beforehand, and you'll be walking into the exam, shorter exam, so less stress. I think the 4-hour exam, a lot of students find very long, very stressful, very tiring. Shorter exam, and you'll be going in with an idea, just like you do in the real world when you're going to give advice and recommendations. You've already got an idea of the industry and the fictitious organization, and then you've got time to understand in the exam the actual issues that are included in exhibits. So 3 hours 15 minutes, and it's up to you how you manage that 3 hours 15 minutes. So obviously in the 3 hours and 15 minutes you've got to read the information that's provided to you. There will be new information in exam exhibits. You've then got to plan your answers and write them. So you will have to work efficiently and effectively during those 3 hours and 15 minutes. So we would recommend that you make sure you've gone into the practice platform, looked at the specimens and practiced to exam time, because now you've not got 4 hours, you've got 3 hours and 15 minutes, but you do have less new information and you come in with an understanding of the organization and the industry. The third change is the exam format. Now, a lot of the exam will look the same. So you'll have a background page, which gives you information about your role and the lists, the exhibits. And there will be new exhibits, and they'll look the same as they currently do, or they did in the previous format. And those exhibits can be minutes, or they can be an article or a memo or an email. They'll look the same. What you'll also have in the exam is access to the pre-scene. So SBL is remaining a closed book exam. So even though we're releasing the pre-scene 2 weeks early, you cannot take an annotated copy of that pre-scene with you into the exam. So there's no notes taken into the exam. It's a closed book exam, but you will be able to access the pre-scene, a clean copy of it, in the CBE environment. So that's the different change. So you will have the pre-scene available to you in the exam. There will still be tasks, but we are limiting to 3 tasks. So previously there could have been 4 or 5 tasks. Now we're limiting every exam to 3 tasks, but they can be for a varying number of marks, and they can be split into parts. So you could have a part A, B, and C potentially, but 3 tasks in total. And each professional skill is only going to be tested once. So the professional skills, there are 5 of them. We'll continue to examine all 5, just like we do at the moment. But instead of having professional skills marks being 2, 3, or 4, each professional skill now will only be examined once, and it will be examined out of 4 marks. Right, so that will be clear in the exam. Just like we have at the moment, below the tasks, it tells you which professional skill to cover in answering that task, and there'll be the 4-mark allocation. But what we are changing is that each of the tasks will now be answered in a separate response area. So previously, SBL was answered all in one go. So yes, you could see everything on screen at the same time, and you answered all your tasks together. And most of them, apart from the slides and the spreadsheets, were all in that word processor response area. What we're changing now is that you will answer each of the tasks separately. So in the CBE environment and on the practice platform, if you're having a look at that, you will see all the exhibits and you will see the pre-seen, but you only will see one task at a time, and each of the tasks is answered in a separate response area. You can still move backwards and forwards. So if you start answering task 1, you move on to task 2, and then you realize you forgot something and you want to go back to task 1, you can. So you can still go backwards and forwards. The tasks only become complete when you submit your final exam, but they will be answered in separate response areas, and it is important that you answer in the correct response area. So don't answer task 2 in the task 1 response area. You need to make sure that you're using the correct response area to answer each task. So that's the exam format change, but it is reflected in the practice platform on those specimens. So those are the 3 big changes. Now what I'm going to do is hand over to Jessie, and she's going to talk to you about things that aren't changing.
Thank you, John, and hello. It's not everything is changing. There are some things that are still remaining, and I'm going to go through those, elements that are unchanged. So the changes that Joanne has discussed only affect the structure and the format of the SBL exam. But the exam will continue to be an integrated case study in which all the requirements relate to a single case study scenario. So despite the questions or the tasks to be independently answered in a separate response options, but it is still one exam based on the one case study based on the pre-seen and the exhibits that will be provided in that exam. It will continue to be closed book exam. As John has stated, you will not be allowed to take any scratch pad, any paper with you, not even the pre-seen itself. You cannot take it in the exam. A copy will be provided in your exam. You will continue to be given the role or roles that you should assume as you carry out the various tasks in the case study. And this role will be provided in the introductory page of the live exam. And this is important to read that page before you start writing the exam. Not only to know your role, but also to have an idea of the further information provided in the exhibits and any other important information that the examining team feel you need to bear in mind as you do your exam. The quality, the integrity, and the rigor of the exam remains the same. ACCA will continue to offer an exam that focuses on application and includes strategic thinking, business direction, problem solving, evaluation, advice to prepare you for workplace, and this has always been the spirit behind the SBL exam. The content of the syllabus remains the same. There are no changes to the study guide for exams from September 2023. The exam will continue to test across all syllabus areas. This is very important because in SBL, we don't have core syllabus areas. We have not identified that these are core areas. Every area of the syllabus is equally important and so is examinable. The SBL exam will continue to have 80% technical marks and 20% professional skills marks. This has not changed, except, as Joe already mentioned, each of the 5 professional skills will only be tested once in each exam. That's the only change. Otherwise, nothing has changed the way professional skills are tested. But remember, there's also general professionalism that you must continue to demonstrate in all your answers. Let's move on to the resources that we have prepared, we have created, or plan to create to help you through the changes and prepare you to sit your SBL exam with confidence. Those of which are available now, you can view them on the resource tab in your screen, as Martin mentioned earlier on. But more will be provided as and when they are available. There are new examining team articles providing essential information to guide you through these changes, and there are 5 of them which are listed on the left side of the slide. The first one is announcing the SBL changes. This is an article that explains the details of the changes, much of what we have touched on in this webinar. The second one is changes to SBL exam structure of tasks. The purpose of this article is to illustrate how tasks will be answered in the new format. Joanne has explained, how the tasks will be seen in the CBE format. That is, you have to answer one question and then move on to the next task, and then move on to another or the next task. So this document explains how that is done, but you can read this document. Most important, you must experience the actual CBE functionality in the practice platform itself. The next is the examining team guidance, which explains the expectation of the examining team from an SBL candidate who is ready to sit and pass the exam. It is in 2 parts. The first part provides the overall aim of the SBL assessment and the main skills and capabilities expected from candidates taking this exam. Part 2 provides general advice and recommendations on exam techniques and approaches to help you maximize your chances of passing the exam. Note that there are not rules, but best practices that you need to consider as you learn the syllabus and practice questions in order to develop your own technique and approach that will work best for you in the exam. And the last one is how to use the SBL pre-scene, which helps to guide you in how best to use the pre-scene within the 2 weeks before the live exam. Now, there are 2 specimen exams available in the practice platform, specimen 1 and specimen 2, and each has the pre-scene element in it, the exam, the answers, and the marking guide. These give you a flavor of the style and the format of the new SBL exam. Since there are no changes to the content of the SBL syllabus, existing resources, including all technical articles, past exams, and examiner reports, which are still available on the website, continue to be useful resources to equip you with appropriate knowledge and skill to pass the exam. However, to practice timings and CPE functionality, you need to do the specimen exams in practice platform in an exam environment. We also provide additional support to ensure you have maximum chance of passing your exam. And these include explainer videos, podcasts, and webinars. Please do spare time to join or listen to these. We are in the process of creating a mock exam to add to the specimen exams for more practice, and this will be available around 14th August. That's all we had, and thank you all for listening. It's now your time for questions, and I hand over to Michelle, who will be leading the Q&A sessions. Over to you, Michelle.
Thank you, Jessie. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. Slight echo there. Just to reiterate, I've got a couple of questions here. They may be things we've mentioned, but people may have come in late. So my first question that has been asked is, how will students access the pre-seen information? How will they get hold of it?
I can take that one.
Oh, okay, you go, Jessie. Jessie, you go.
Okay. The pre-seen will be accessed through my exam planner, your exam planner.
Okay.
I hope you, yeah.
Yes. Through exam planner, yeah.
What date is it coming out on then? Just if we can reiterate that as well.
Yeah, the 22nd of August. So it'll be exactly 2 weeks before an exam, and that's how it's going to work in each session. It'll be 2 weeks before the SBL exam. So this time it's the 22nd of August. You access the pre-seen through exam planner. There's also another document that you can access as well on exam planner, which is the guidance on how to use the pre-seen. And you will get an email telling you how to access, and we are tracking to see when students are downloading it, and so we will be sending reminder emails to students who haven't downloaded it. But we strongly recommend, can't say it strongly enough, that you do download it as soon as you can, to give yourself time to become really familiar with it. So don't leave it until the night before the exam. Take the full advantage of the 2 weeks that you've got that pre-seen available to you.
Okie dokie. And those 2 weeks, what do you advise students to do within the 2 weeks?
It's important that students spend those 2 weeks really familiarizing themselves with the pre-seen information. So reading it, but reading it carefully, and probably reading it through a couple of times, a number of times, just making sure they understand it. The pre-seen is just background and context, so it doesn't have the exam tasks in it. It's not going to give you big clues as to what's coming up in your exam. It is just background and context. If there is anything in the pre-seen that you don't understand, so there might be a term or terms that are used in this industry, or a process that we mention, and you don't quite understand it in the pre-seen, you've now got time before the exam to research that a little bit. But the emphasis is a little bit. So don't spend 2 weeks researching all aspects of this industry and gaining loads of knowledge, because that knowledge is not going to get you marks in the exam. Remember, the exam questions will be focused on the fictitious organization, and the tasks will be very specific about that fictitious organization. So there are not marks available in the exam for just general knowledge and know-how about the industry. So that's quite different from some other pre-scenes that other institutes issue. So be aware of that. We are not expecting you to do lots of research. Just understand what's in the pre-scene. That everything that you need is there for you. You don't need to do anything extra, but you can absolutely talk to your friends, talk to your colleagues, talk to your tutors, so that you're absolutely free to do that in the 2 weeks beforehand. And probably read it through a number of times. Think of it in terms of the SBL syllabus a bit. Don't use it for question spotting, and talk to colleagues and tutors. I think that's my advice. Jessie, have you got anything else?
That's very clear, Joe. But just to add, don't have so much information when you're getting the exam. Don't memorize it. Others would ask, should I actually memorize? Because we're saying you don't have a copy in the exam. Should I memorize it? No, don't memorize. You will be given further information to help you with your tasks. The pre-scene is just to have some background information so that you are able to follow the new information that will be given in the exam. So don't memorize, just understand, familiarize with it. When you get in the exam, focus on the new information that you are given. And if you want to refer to the pre-scene, it's just for context only. That is just the background. And then go on and answer the questions.
Also, it is important that in the 2 weeks that between the pre-scene release and the exam, you don't neglect the normal revision things. So that look at the whole syllabus, do practice questions. So don't let the 2 weeks before the exam just be about the pre-scene and you've neglected everything else, because what is going to help you pass is question practice, understanding all the elements of the syllabus and the pre-scene. It's the three all together. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And a question that's come up a few times as well. Are the past exams on the practice platform and in revision kits and the like still going to be useful?
They are going to be very, very useful because, as we said, the changes are just, the format and the structure of the exam. Everything else remains the same. The syllabus remains the same. So the content of the knowledge in the SBL is the same because the syllabus has remained the same. Also, the style of SBL exams still remains the same. Currently we have exhibits and then followed by tasks. And the tasks, when you're answering, you're looking at all the exhibits because it's integrated, exam. That continues, and therefore the past exams, even the revision kits or questions, have that. So the style is the same. The way the tasks are structured, you have the same, or the introduction, you have the audience, you are asked the professional skills, you are asked the format, you are given the roles, all that remains. And therefore, all the past questions are useful. The only thing is to learn the CBE functionality, to know how the new format is actually going to be. And you can do that using the specimen exams and the mock exams that will be available. Otherwise, the rest is the same. Joe, you have anything to add on that?
No, just to reiterate that they absolutely are still relevant and are really an important source of practice, because a lot of the September exam will look the same, tasks in the same style, professional skills will be the same, a lot of the exhibit styles will be the same. The examining team hasn't changed, their approach really hasn't changed, so those are still a very, very useful resource. Yeah.
And also, just to add, not just the past exams, but including articles as well. All the articles that are still there, that all useful because it's the syllabus and the knowledge that you need to have in order to pass the exam. So they're all relevant. Thank you.
Okay, and I think there's something we need to reiterate is a couple of people are asking if the pre-scene will be available in the exam. And yes, it will be available, folks, via a button on the left-hand side of your screen. So that's another reason why, as Jessie and Joe were suggesting earlier, you don't need to remember it. You don't need to memorize it. It will be there for you to look at as required. So with the pre-scene, we've talked about it a bit. And I know people have maybe not seen a pre-scene before and not used one. So could you give us some advice on do's and don'ts when the pre-scene becomes available, please?
Yeah, as I said, the pre-scene isn't a very, very long document, and it does contain everything that you need. So it's they're normally in two parts. There's an industry part and then moves on to the organisation, and it'll give you information about what's going on in the industry, and it's usually in a fictitious country, and it'll give you some information about that, the customers, suppliers, the risks. So it is important that you access it as soon as it's released, so you've given yourself time to work through it. Read it, understand it, talk to people about it. Don't do extra research, like we've just said, unless there are things that you don't understand. And just make sure that, think of it in terms of things like the SBL syllabus. Don't question spot with it, because you'll get new information in the exam, and that'll be the focus of the tasks. So don't waste time and energy thinking about what's coming up in the exams, because you will get new information. So probably we'd say don't leave it too late to read it. Don't think that one quick read of it is enough. It's probably going to take you a few reads through, take time, potentially read it, have a think, come back to it, read it again. You might want to do some kind of spider diagrams or mind maps with it. You can't take those into the exams with you, but it might help you become more familiar and understand the information a bit more. Don't neglect question practice. So don't just make this your focus. You need to be practicing questions, and you need to be looking at all the syllabus. Those are my do's and don'ts. Jessie, have you got anything else?
Actually, you have covered, all the important ones. Probably, if I may add just one, is remember that, the industry and the organization is fictitious. So it doesn't represent any real company. It's not the real industry. And that's why we are saying you shouldn't do too much research, other than just, if you don't understand some terminologies given in the pre-scene, then you can further check. Because, the examining team will simplify things. You cannot learn everything about that industry. So we'll simplify things, and therefore you just need to understand and familiarize yourself within the information that is given in the pre-scene, and then move on to prepare in the normal way for your exam by doing questions across all the syllabus areas. I think that's what I just wanted to add. Thank you.
Michelle, have we lost you?
No, you haven't. I'm still here, I promise.
Right.
I pressed my mute button to answer some questions. Sorry, I was answering questions in text. Oh, okay. So, anyway, I'll repeat. Given that the time given in the exam is now less, are students expected to write less? And linked to that, can you confirm that the intellectual level of the exam is exactly the same as it has been so far?
We do not. Okay, go ahead.
Jessie, you start.
Go
You
ahead.
start.
No,
There we
no,
go,
no,
and
go
I'll come
ahead,
in. Yes.
Joe.
Mm. We are reducing the time, and the reduction in time is due to the fact that there will be less new information for you to work through. There will be new information, there will be exhibits, but you'll already be familiar with that industry and the organization. You'll have the contextual background before you start that exam session. So a lot of the synthesis and the reflection time that you had in the 4 hours that we needed you to do, that is now being taken out of the actual timed exam. You'll do that beforehand. There is still new information. There will still be exhibits, but there will be fewer exhibits than you've had in the old format. And that's because of the fact that in the old format, some of the background and context was included in exhibits, and now it's in the pre-scene. So there's less new information, fewer exhibits, and you've now got fewer tasks because you've only got 3 tasks. So there is there's less information, new information to read through, and you've got fewer tasks. But the mark allocations aren't decreasing, so we're still at 80 marks and 20 marks. And we'd still be expecting students to write the same level of depth and detail in their answers as we do at the moment. So so we're not expecting you to write less at all. We're actually expecting you to, because there's less new information for you to work through, and you've already got that familiarity, you'll be able to get onto writing sort of a lot quicker. And so those answers should still be the same level of detail as they are at the moment. It does mean, though, that you're going to have to manage your time carefully in the 3 hours and 15 minutes. And then, so we do strongly recommend that you have a practice with those specimens and the practice platform and the mock when it becomes available, so that you're used to working with a pre-scene and then a reduced SBL exam. Jessie, anything to add to that?
I think you have covered everything, Joe. Thank you. And it's clear. Thank you.
Fantastic. And with regard to the pre-scene, why isn't it being made available to learning providers early so that they can write mocks? Why are the learning providers getting it at the same time as students?
Well, the learning providers are getting the same time as students, and this will be the case because SCCA believes in inclusivity. We do have, students who are with learning providers and students who are studying on their own, but we want to have a fair, playground here so that everybody, whether you are with a learning provider or you're studying on your own, you get these materials at the same time, and then, have the same period to digest the information before the exam. So it's important that everybody gets the pre-scene at the same time. And as we said, for September exam, it will be on 22nd of August, and therefore everybody will get it on 22nd of August, and then you can start discussing it with the tutors if you are studying with learning providers or with your colleagues, but it's all to be on the same ground, really. Joe, please add.
Yeah, absolutely. It's inclusivity, and it was important to us when we made this change that everybody was treated fairly, and that all students have got an equal opportunity, in terms of access to the pre-scene. Thank you.
Right, what have we got? With regard to the 3 tasks, students are asking, are they able to go backwards and forwards between them once they're in the exam session?
Yes, you can. So absolutely, if you start task 1, you move on to task 2, you want to go back and put something else into task 1, go back and put it into task 1. So you will be able to go backwards and forwards. What we don't want you to do is do task 1, start task 2. Remember, you had something to add into task 1 and put it into your task 2 answer. You need to go back and put it into task 1. So backwards and forwards is absolutely allowed. Everything is only finalized in the final submission, so you can absolutely go backwards and forwards. And the only thing that you're not seeing all at the same time is your tasks. So you'll see all the exhibits, you're able to access those all the time, and the pre-seen all the time. It's just the tasks that only show one at a time, but you can move backwards and forwards and view them in any order and answer them in any order. Just make sure you answer them in the correct response area.
And just to add to that, the fact that each task is answered separately in a separate response area does not make this not integrated. The exam continues to be unintegrated, and therefore all the tasks share the same information from the exhibits. So there's no each task is not linked to one exhibit. No, you can take information from exhibit 1, 2, 3 to use for task 1, and the same to use for task 2, just as it is we are currently doing. Thank you.
Okay. What else have we got? So, slightly complex question, this one. I'm just trying to parse it as I read it. Are there going to be less requirements to present an analysis of company context, seen as most of the context should be given in the pre-seen with these changes?
So I think that's asking if we wouldn't be able to ask sort of students to do kind of a SWOT or a PESTLE. I mean, we don't ask students to do those specifically, but sometimes in the tasks, that's sort of the requirement to answer the task. And no, that we can still examine anything at all in the syllabus. It's just that when we do ask it, so if we were requiring students to do some kind of a SWOT analysis or a Porter's 5 forces or any of the models, then that answer, that model, would be based more on the exam exhibit information rather than pre-seen. So what you won't find is that there'll be a task that the answer to which is mostly based on the pre-seen and that you could have prepared in advance. So that you won't find, because the exam tasks are based on the exhibits, which is new information that you don't have. So anything in the syllabus is still examinable. The focus, though, is on the new information. Remember, the pre-seen is just background and context. Jessie, anything to add to that?
No, that's clear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can find it. There's an awful lot of questions coming in. I'm just going to have to scroll through and have a look if I can find any others that I can understand quickly. Students are asking for samples of the new format, and I know we've said that the new format, the new style, the idea of the pre-seen is now all available on the practice platform. And there will be, or there are already specimen exams, and there will be a mock soon. The mock, of course, can't be based on the pre-seen we're going to use for the exam, because that isn't being released till afterwards. So there's lots of information there, folks. If we were to go through a pre-seen in this session, it would be a little bit longer, but feel free to go onto the practice platform, and the key word there, I think, is free, as some people are asking if there's a charge for these materials, and no, there isn't. One for Joe and Jessie here, I think. People who have materials that relate to the June exam or exams in the prior year, will their materials that they have available still be helpful to help them study and revise towards the new format?
Yes, because the syllabus isn't really changing at all. So yes, that's still relevant in terms of the technical coverage. Even the past, it'll all be old style, but even those sort of past exam style questions are all relevant, because we're going to be continuing to ask in the same style. The only thing that we would say, if you are working from materials that are based on the old format, make sure you set yourself time to work through the specimens on the practice platform and do the mock, so that you're used to the new format and you're used to the working with a pre-scene. Jessie, I think that's the best advice, but it's still relevant, isn't it? There's no syllabus change. Yeah.
No, there's no syllabus changes, so that's still relevant. All the past exam questions, all the technical articles, the examiner reports, they're all relevant. As John said, it's only the format in the new format that you need to check with, or you need to practice with, in the practice platform. But otherwise, you can use those materials to learn, to gain the knowledge, the skills that are necessary to pass the exam.
Okay. One about general question answering here. Should students always explain both sides of an issue when they're asked to evaluate a situation? So when the verb evaluate is used, should they be covering pros and cons?
Usually, but we would not normally rely on just one word. So our tasks are normally a few lines long, and there's the stem above the task, which would give more information about what students should be doing. So normally, if you look at past exams, we talk about benefits and drawbacks and pros and cons. So evaluate would be in there, but there's normally other clues as to how you should do the evaluation as well. Jessie, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think you're right. It has to be in a context, because you are given an assignment, and you have to look at what you are specifically being asked, and then do the evaluation. Yes, on the first of it, evaluation will look at the both sides, the pros and the cons. But you have to consider the situation, especially the instruction, which is the opening stem in each task. What really is the issue before you look at whether you have to before you consider what exactly you have to do. But also there are articles where you can see different ways of asking exams in ACCA on our website. That can help to learn what evaluation means in a question, what analysis means, etc. Yeah, thank you.
Let me run through some more questions. A simple one that keeps popping up that I think may have been answered in the background before, but just because it's come up again a couple of times. If a student makes what the marker would consider a valid point, how many marks are there usually available for that valid point?
We usually say, a point qualifies for a mark. Now, just, you may explain and further develop that. If the development point is adding value to the explanation you have given, that it may score a further mark. For example, you explain a point and it's valid, you gain a mark, and you give a relevant example to that to back up that point, then it will qualify for a second mark. Is that so, Joe?
Yes, yes. So that's usually, well, that's often how it works, is that, as Jess says, one mark for the initial point. If it's developed and that development is applied and it's relevant and it's adding something, second point. And most of, if you go back and look at past papers and things, you'll see that in the marking guides, a lot of the marking guides indicate that it's 2 marks for a developed point. that doesn't mean that it's 2 marks a point. It's 1 mark a point, and then if it's developed, it's the second mark.
Yeah, indeed.
Just to add there, you know, especially when it comes to numbers or figures, you know, just putting a figure on its own, it doesn't qualify a mark. So you explain the figure and then provide further, you know, development point, further backing point to that, then it qualifies for 2 marks. So make sure, you know, if you are doing, you know, like you have a spreadsheet and you have calculated things, those don't qualify for any marks. What qualifies marks is what do those figures mean in the context of the question you are responding to. Okay,
yeah, and that's the case with all of the SP exams, all of the exams at this level, that you have to justify, you have to explain, you have to put it in context. It's the same for, say, APM and AFM and the like. So yeah, it's normally 1 point a mark, but if you expand further and add some more value, there may be a second mark. But yeah, not to think of that as 2 marks for every point, because that's not the case. An interesting question here. How are we applying professional skills and ethics in the exam? How are the professional skills and the ethics applied to the SBL exam?
Well, we've got 5 professional skills, and they are clearly explained in the SBL exam as to what we're looking for. So they're linked to a task, and there's an explanation within the SBL exam as to what we're looking for as we're examining that that professional skill. So often, or sometimes we might ask you in an exam to do slides, and that's normally the communication professional skill. So you'll do your slides, and then there'll be a professional skills for communication, for clarifying something to the board. And so in the exam, it is quite clear which professional skill we're looking for and what we're looking for to get you the marks in that professional skill. So read it carefully. Ethics sort of underpins a lot of the SBL sort of syllabus. We don't have ethics as a separate professional skill. It's not one of the 5, but certainly students should be thinking ethics all the way through. It's really sort of fundamental to the qualification.
Okay, look at this question. Can you see it? So you have to attempt question 1. As you can see it, it pertains to what we've just learned. Risk analysis by board for question 1 and strategic option. Then for question 2, you talk about investment appraisal and e-marketing. Question 3 talks about roles and responsibility of CEO and the board when we talk about transformation changes. In addition to how to drive transition changes. So for March 2020 question, we have to attempt this question. Read this, exhibit, attempt it. Then between now and 12:30, it should be true with the three questions. Then I'll be back there for solution. Meanwhile, I'll also prep proper solutions, proper questions around this also. It's an interesting question that I will leave with you to look at greatly. It's an interesting question. So if we can solve that today, by 12:30 I'll be back. Then we'll take it from there. Any question? Any question? Okay. Thank you for your time. I'll be expecting your solution by 12:30.